As I have said, our gospel taken from the Gospel of Matthew, which is also talked about by Luke and Mark, the synoptics, talks about the transfiguration of Jesus. And we were told that his face shone like the sun. His clothes became as white as light. According to the experts of the Bible, the exegetes, the kind of transfiguration that the disciples witnessed of Jesus is a prefiguration of what is to come, of what will happen after the passion and his death. They were able to have that privilege to see the glorified body of Jesus after his passion. The crucified Jesus is not the end of everything. After that, there is that resurrection. There is that glorified body. That is the victorious, risen Jesus. And that will be the source of inspiration for each believer. And Jesus brought them to that mountain to witness the transfiguration, because this will serve as an inspiration for the disciples, something that will strengthen them when the passion and death of Jesus will happen. Saint Ignatius reminds us that every time we have consolation experiences, moments of joy, moments of closeness with God, we should store them to our memory. We should always remember it, make it part of us. And the purpose of storing those consolation experiences is to prepare us, to strengthen us, to inspire us when desolation comes. And so, the glorified body of Jesus will be a source of inspiration for the disciples when the passion and the death of Jesus will come. When we construct a building, for example, this cathedral, before the construction of this cathedral, we already have a finished product. That's what we call the perspective of the whole cathedral. And normally, we place that outside the construction. What's the purpose of that? To inspire us. Kanang bugatan nata sa gasto, kanang kapuyan nata ug maghuna-huna nata matapos ka nato ning project. This is a very ambitious project according to some people. But the perspective will inspire us, will keep us going. We are already close to the finished product, and we have to share whatever available resources that we have. But the glorified body of Jesus will pass through the passion, the suffering, and the death of Jesus. It is not a glorified body that will just happen in an instant. There is a process that it will pass through. Doon na siya'y proseso nga agian sa dili pa siya makasinati o kalampusan, kadaugan, ug kahimayaan. It will pass through the process of dying, of self-giving, of suffering, of death. But the reaction of the disciples was, Lord, it is better for us to stay here. We will erect 3 tents, 3 booths, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. They wanted to enjoy and prolong the moment. And they prefer to stay there where everything is secure, where everything is safe. But Jesus did not agree. We will only experience the glory and the resurrection if we go down from this mountain of transfiguration and engage ourselves in the very mission entrusted to us by the Father. We need to experience dying, the giving of self, making sacrifices, so that we will experience the transfiguration of our very selves. And in our readings, we see how people are transfigured to the best of themselves. Look at Abraham. He was called by God to leave his comfort zones, to leave his land, so that he will enjoy the fullness of life. But to enjoy the fullness of life, to enjoy the transfiguration of the best of himself, he has to leave his comfort zones. He has to leave his possessions. He has to give up the things that he possessed, the things that he valued. And in our second reading from the second letter of Paul to Timothy, tradition had it that this letter, the second letter of Paul to Timothy, is the last letter of Paul. He has letters to the Romans, to the Corinthians, to the Philippians, but this letter, according to tradition, this is the last letter he wrote. And he wrote it between 64 to 65 AD, after the death of Jesus. And this was written when he was imprisoned in Rome. And he was writing the disciple Timothy not to give up the sufferings that he encounters. And he encouraged Timothy to make his sufferings as his witness to the gospel and to his commitment to Jesus. It is as if Paul is reminding Timothy, like me, who is now in prison for the gospel, your life of holiness will shine in the midst of suffering and the trials that you are facing, because you are faithful in proclaiming the good news of Jesus. It is the sufferings that we encounter that will transfigure ourselves to become the kind of self that Jesus wants us to be. I brought with me 2 rocks. Mga bato. Hamis na siya nga mga bato. Rocks become smooth. Mahamis siya through the grinding of each other. Kanang magbangga-bangga ang mga bato. The grinding of stones, will make themselves smooth. And the grinding happens when the wind and water rush over the rocks. The rocks become smoothened. You're smoother, mas hamis siya, as rough and jagged edges are scraped off or break off. Look at our pews. It's very different from most of the pews around the cathedral. This went through a lot of process. I consulted a number of people who are experts on this. The process, ang pagliha, una, ila pa kining bubuan og tubig, hugasan. Ug paghuman og hugas, lihaan. Duha ka tawo magtabang niini and they will finish sa pagliha niini, sa pag-finish niini, 2 days. Una ang top coat, human sa pagmasilya, lihaan na sa pagbalik, ang mga inagian sa lansang, ang mga lubak-lubak, lihaan na pod para ma-flatten siya. Sa dili pa ang top coat, sa dili pa i-apply ang polyurethane. It is a long process. Kung makasulti pa ang lingkuranan, if we can allow the pew to speak, mureklamo siguro siya, muhilak siguro siya, sakit na kaayo ang imong pagliha kanako. Apan ang pagliha mo ay makapahamis kaniya. Aron katong mga magmaninay sa kasal, dili mga tastas inyong mga mahalon kaayo ng mga sinina. Dili mo sangit. Maayo lingkuran, komportable nga lingkuran, hinlo nga lingkuran, and for what purpose? Just for one purpose, to focus our attention to worship God. Everything that we do here are meant for us to worship God. We should be freed from all the disturbances. We spend a lot of money so that we can only focus on one thing, to worship God. And when we talk about the polishing, the finishing of the pew, at the beginning, ingon sila, Bishop, mahal, mag-ingon ko, we will not talk about price. Because if we talk about price immediately, we will not be able to hit the highest quality. For me, I would rather spend so much than settle for less for the house of God. But the transfigured pew, the smooth rocks, will only happen if we undergo a process of purification, of cleansing. And that is the purpose of Lent, to cleanse us from our sins, to apologize to God and to the people we have wronged, so that we will be ready to witness and celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. Every trial, every difficulty is the privileged moment for each one of us to shine. Because like the pew, ang mga pagliha sa mga kalisod sa kinabuhi, maoy makapabag-o sa atong panglangkaw, sa atong mga batasan, ug sa atong mismo nga kinabuhi. When is the most shining moment of a student? It is during exams. It is during board exams that they are invited and given the privilege to shine. Because ang ilang gihaguan nga mga sleepless nights, mauna ang panahon nga ilang gamiton sa pagtubag sa mga lisod ng mga pangutana. Apan ang ilang pagpasar, muagi og kalisod, muagi og pilar. Karon kauban nato ang DMI, Daughters of Mary Immaculate. I asked them to attend the Mass at 8:30 rather than having a special Mass only for them. They will be having a meeting as diocesan officers. And sa inyong meeting, importante po na sama sa mga bato nga magbangga, you have to allow good ideas to collide. You allow people to be listened to. Dili lang usa ka tawo ang masunod. Allow the ideas of others to shine so that in listening, you will be able to listen to the will of the movements of the Spirit. And by listening to the Spirit, speaking through each one, you will become a synodal DMI, walking together, listening to the Spirit, respecting to each other's ideas, allowing ideas like rocks to be smoothened, to be refined by the collision of ideas that we welcome to each one. Mauna, mga ginikanan, ang mga kalisod sa kinabuhi, mao ang atong mga privileged moment to shine as a family. Walay pamilya nga mahimong likon nga dili tay-ugon. Ug kadtong mga panahon nga gitay-ug ang pamilya, these are the privileged moments that God is giving us so that our families will be transfigured to become the family of Christ. That couples will become couples for Christ. Couples who belong to Christ. Children who belong to Christ. Students who belong to Christ. Lawyers, doctors, carpenters, laborers, farmers, we belong to Christ. And look at our pews. You look at our pews, they are nice to see. But one of the beautiful things in these pews is we just allow its uniqueness to shine. Ang ubang mag-ingon, Bishop, mahimo ba nato mag-mix ta og chemical para ma-uniform ang iyang color? Pero nag-ingon ko, we'll just allow the naturality of sa iyang mga grano nga mogawas. Tungod kay diha sa natural niya nga beauty, you will see a very authentic beauty of every beauty that God once desired for His creation. Ug ang atong gibuhat sa atong mga lingkuranan, that is how we treat each other. We do not have to be somebody else in order to be transfigured. We just have to be ourselves, to be the best self that God desires us to be. Unique, diverse, because it is in diversity that we will discover the beauty of ideas, the refinement of decisions, the beauty of a collaborative effort that is shared by each one, each member of the community. And we walk together as a synodal church. And every week, you look forward to something new. Tanawan ninyo ang atong kathedral. Matag semana, adunay bago. Kung maadto ka sa likod, hapit na matapos ang flooring natin sa atong 4-year chapel. Tanawa nga itong baptistry. Every day, every week, it is being as if transfigured to becoming the kind of church, the kind of cathedral that we want. Apan, dili siya mahitabo without the hard work of our workers, without the generosity and sacrifices of all our donors, like you, like the others, the rest of the members of our faithful of the whole Diocese of Tandag. May we continue to be convinced of the message of the transfiguration, that glory comes after a lot of purification, after a lot of dying to oneself, so that the best in us will come out. And it is the grace of Jesus, the forgiveness of Jesus, that will transfigure us into becoming the kind of person that God wants us to be. Amen.